Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF. Bava Metzia Ayin, we are holding 3 lines off the top of the Amud. Amar Rav Anan. In the name of Shmuel. Amar Rav Anan, Amar Shmuel. Mois shall yisaimim. You're meant to know that if there is any money owned by orphans, we're allowed to try to invest it in a way that profits them, in order to support them, right? Mutar lahalvoisan beribis, you can actually lend that money out with interest. Amali Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman responds to him, Mishum de just because they're Yisaimim, they don't have to keep the rules. Safina l'hu isura, we give them things which are forbidden. What are they doing taking ribis? That's not allowed. That's not a reason for taking ribis. Yasmi, and he added a pretty harsh add-on. Yasmi de achli de lav de tu. Even Yisaimim, if they eat things which don't belong to them, meaning they accept forbidden money, leizlu, they should follow basar shivkayu, they should follow the one who left them, meaning they should die just like him, basically. This is not right. There's no reason. This doesn't justify ribis. Amar leis, so Rav Nachman asked Rav Anan, you quoted Shmuel, right? That this is allowed. Please, can you tell me exactly how you know this from Shmuel? Was it something that you heard from him directly, or was it just a derivation, a conclusion based on some sort of episode involving Yisaimim assets? Emily, tell me, Izu Gufa, the actual core of the event. Meaning, tell me exactly what happened. Izu Gufa de Uvda Heichihava, what exactly transpired which prompted this, conclusion. Amar Leis, he says like this: Hahu Duda debnei Mar Ukva. So Mar Ukva passed away, and his children had this copper vat, this big, thing that is commercial, vat. The Hava Bei Mar Shmuel. So Shmuel was, the caretaker, looking after this piece of equipment, and he used it to their benefit. He would rent it out in order to provide them with income. And he would do as follows: Tokel, he would weigh it prior to giving it to the customer. Yovel give it to him. So pretty much they had the actual weight confirmed prior to the rental. V'tokel v'shakalei, and when he took it back, right, from the renter at the end of the rental period, he would also, weigh it once again to confirm if there's any discrepancy, and he would charge that to the renter as well. And not only that, he would charge 2 things: rental, right, and damages. V'shakel agra, he would take that rental fee. V'shakel pachs, and also the damage compensation as well. And the question is, well, isn't it one or the other? Otherwise, you're running into ribis. Agra, if you're charging for the rental, that means it's you're responsible, not the renter. He's paying rent. Like pachs, you shouldn't be charging him for the damages. V'pachs, if you're charging him for damages, so basically it's in his possession. So it's like a loan. He's fully responsible, like a loan. So you have no right, you have no business taking the rental fee, lo yagra. So basically, I concluded from this incident that apparently Shmuel holds that you're allowed to accept ribis on behalf of Yisaimim. Amar lei, so Rav Nachman responds to Rav Anan, no, actually, this story doesn't tell us anything about any heter of taking ribis. Kiha, this type of arrangement, I feel a bit diknani, even adults with long beards, right? Right? The dikna is a lotion of beard. Even adults with beards, meaning not just Yisaimim, anybody. Nami Shori, it's also allowed. Let me avid to proceed with this type of procedure. You know why? Because ultimately the owner does have some loss on the side. When you use the vat, the fire pretty much burns out even whatever's the walls of the kli, whatever's there, let alone the fact that there's some deterioration, but even the actual wall that's there, the wall material gets affected by the fire. The kama the mikli nechasha basar dami. The more the nechashes gets burned, the more it diminishes the value of the equipment, and therefore that's something which the owner sort of absorbs, that loss. So ultimately it's okay, even if he charges rental and damages, because he's also contributing to the expense as well. Amar Rabba bar Shila, Amar Chizda, some say Amar Rabba bar Yesa, Amar Chama, Amar Sheshes. But there is some sort of leeway when it comes to Yisayimim. When it comes to Ribis de Rabbanan, Mois shall Yisayimim. So funds belonging to Yisayimim, Mutar l'halvoisan, you're allowed to lend them out in a sort of iska type of investment. Korav l'schar, v'rochek l'hefsid. So typically, the allowable iska arrangement involves giving somebody money. Half of it deemed a loan, half deemed a pikadoin, right? Just like a deposit, which is still mine, right? Still belongs to the investor. The profits are shared, a split. So it's a profit sharing arrangement where half the profits go to the investor and half to the manager. By the way, that's the concept of heter iska, right? We don't lend with interest, but we can make a sort of an investment with this type of structure. Half is still mine. I'm just giving it to you as a pikad, and half is yours. You're borrowing that. So now when there's any profits involved, the profit coming from your half, the milva, is yours. The half belonging to my pikad is mine, but I have to add another, sort of token amount to give you a salary, so to speak, for your efforts on my behalf. That eliminates any ribis concerns. So that's the standard procedure. That's the typical formula, as we learned the last couple of days. But when it comes to Yisayimim, we're more lenient. We allow them to invest their money closer to gain, and further away from any chance of loss, meaning no risk investment is allowed. So basically, they'll split the profits, but they're not liable for any part of the losses. Typically, we don't do that, but here we sort of suspend the Issa de Rabbanan in order to benefit the Yisayimim so they don't use up their money. This way they have constant income and what to live from. Tana Rabbanan. On this topic of an Iska, what is the proper formula? Karav l'schar v'rochek l'hefsid. So if the fellow invests his money, a regular person, not a Yassim, it's closer to gain than to loss, meaning he's just splitting the profits but not incurring any losses or very little losses, right? Less than 50%. So the share of gain is higher than the share of risk. That's a rasha. It's improper because, right, as we said, it has to be 50-50 in order to justify and to circumvent any ribis. Karav lehefsed v'rochek l'schar chassid. On the other hand, the other side of the spectrum, a person who's a chassid goes the other way. He's more machmer, and he takes only a little bit of the profit relative to a larger undertaking of loss. So that's great, because the investor is actually losing more than he's gaining. That's very far from ribis. Let's say there's a large amount of profit and a large amount of loss as well, right? So he's accepting upon himself a greater share of the risk, corresponding to the greater share of the profit, or a small share of the risk corresponding to a small share of profit. As long as it's balanced, that's okay. That's the proper way to do it. Right? Provided, again, that the manager gets some sort of fee for his efforts and looking after the portion that belongs to the investor. What is the proper way of approaching the Yisayimim fund? What are we supposed to? How are we supposed to invest it properly in a responsible, fruitful way? Amalei says like this: the Bezdin sits down, and we put the money in the Bezdin, right? We entrust it in the court's care. The Avinalu Zuza, and the Bezdin, hands them $1 at a time as per their needs. Amr Leis, he says, what do you mean? The actual principle is going to be diminished, and then they're going to be desperate. They're going to be destitute. Amr Leis, he says like this. Okay, what do you have to suggest? Mar, you, Heichi, Avid, what would you do? Amr Leis, he says like this. But Kinan Gavra, we research and we find a person. The Islay Dahava Pricha, who, wealthy man, he has, gold bullion, flakes of gold, which typically is not something that would be a pikadon in his possession. We assume it's his, right? And we take that from him as a deposit, and we give him the money, the fund. We give him the money from the Yisayimim. So we give it to him as an investment. And the Yisayimim now have a greater share of gain than risk, right? That's allowed by the Yisayimim, so they're all not, let's say, they're not undertaking any risk or just a minuscule amount, but they're sharing, equally in the profits. And then they have constant income with very little or no risk involved. This is only allowed if we take this, raw gold from this fellow to serve as a backup. But some, specific item that he may have, we don't take that. We don't rely on that. Maybe that's been entrusted to him by somebody else. It doesn't really belong to him. And the owner will come along and prove that it belongs to him. He'll show his identity. He'll show simanim, and take the item. Right? By pointing out simanim of ownership in the item. So basically, we're not going to have our backup, our collateral. So that's not something to be relied upon. Amar of Ashi. Okay, that's all very nice. If you have all these, if you meet all these, conditions, Tenach, that's good. If you find a person with just the perfect gold, but let's say you don't have that person around. What do we do then? If you don't have this fellow with the gold, that means the money of the Yisraelim are going to be consumed. I mean, there's no other way to do this. Let's take a middle of the road approach. Chazinan, we look and we find a person who has assets. Without any, issues, nobody's claiming ownership to his assets. Sounds like he's pretty much established financially. Mehemen, he's a trustworthy person. He follows the rules of the Torah. He never experienced a cherem of the Rabbanon. And we trust him as a trustworthy person. We give it to him in the presence and under the authority of the Bezdin, as an iska, as we explained before, in a way that the Yisraelim have income and very little or no risk. Says the Mishnah, Ein Makablin Tzoin Barzel Yisrael. Tzoin Barzel literally is translated as sheep, barzel of iron. No loss, no risk. So basically, a fellow is makabel. He commits himself by taking these animals from Yisrael, and we establish the current value, and that's how much he's committing himself to, that value. He's guaranteeing that amount, irrespective of whether the stuff gets lost or diminishes in value. And the investor, the owner, will now share profits. That's not allowed. You know why? That's ribis. Because the makabel, the farmer, the fellow who's raising the animals, he's basically borrowing this material because he had committed to its value. That means he's borrowing it. It's under his auspices, his responsibility, and anything that he gives back to the owner is ribis. But you can do that from a goy, ava makabel, tzon barzel manaka. V'lo even mehen, we can borrow from them with ribis, ulmalvanoisim ribis, we can lend them with interest. Likewise, a guy who has ceased worshipping Avodah Zarah, he's a Geratoshav. He's like a guy when it comes to, ribis interactions. Finally, Malvi Yisrael Mo'isav Shal Akum Midasa Akum. A Yid can lend money, belongs to a guy with the guy's permission, with ribis, Avalei Midas Yisrael, but not under the authority of Yisrael, which the Gemara will explain for us. Says the Gemara, Lememra, do you mean to say the B'rishus, the Makabel Kaima, when a person is Makabel, these animals, as we explained, the animals are in his possession. He is achrai, and it's like he's borrowing them? Really? It identifies with him? He's like sort of the owner at this time? We have a kasha, if a person does this from a guy, the offspring, even if it's the firstborn kosher animals, there's no din of b'chayr on that. Why? Because we know that the animals of a guy are patur from b'chayr. It's only something which applies to Yisrael, not to Goyim. And the point here is that even the offspring, which are sort of going to be split between the owner and the farmer, I'll consider the guys. And here we say a makabel is fully responsible. He's like the owner. Amar Abaye loy kasha. Answer is like this. Depends. How the makabel alei oinse v'zula. The Mishnah in Bechoros is speaking with the guy, the animal owner, had committed himself to any accidents or any diminishing in value of those animals. So he's still really the owner. And therefore it's patur from Bechor. But in our Mishnah, where we consider the mikabel as the owner, the loy makabel alei oinse v'zula, where the owner had not committed himself to these risks, and therefore the mikabel is deemed owner. Amalei Rabba, so Rabba asks him, either makabel le'mora unsa v'zula. So in the Mishnah in Bechoros, you're saying that the guy, the owner, is fully committed to oinus and to diminishing value. Then why is it called tzoin barzel? Tzoin barzel kurs le. That term applies to a fellow who's makabel and commits himself to all this. Avoid another kasha, Adatani Seifa. Let's move on to the next part of our Mishnah. You can't do this from Yisrael, but you can do it from a guy. Aval Makablan, Tzayin Barzel Mena'akam. Well, if Tzayin Barzel has the option of an owner still holding on to all the risks, Lifloig, we're listening to the day. The Mishnah could have found a distinction within the first case, where he was Makabal from Yisrael. Sometimes it's not okay, where the Makabal is committed to the risk, and sometimes it is okay when the owner maintains his responsibility to that risk. But when is it no good? The owner is not responsible for these things. So it's considered in the rishus of the makabel, as we explained, he becomes like a borrower and should not be returning, paying that extra stuff because that's ribis. But in the case where the owner still retains full responsibility, shaper dummy, that's okay, because you're not borrowing from me. I'm still the owner. Elam Rava says, Rava, you know what? Idi v'idi. The term Tzayin Barzel always means that the makabel, the worker, the manager, is fully responsible. So let's veer away from that suggestion that there's two different types. Both in our Mishnah and Bava Metzia and the Mishnah in Bechoros, both speaking about the same case. Well, the owner is not responsible for Eines and for Zoil. The Makabel is responsible. So back to the question. Here we say that the Makabel is fully responsible. It's under his auspices. He's like borrowing the material. So why by Bechor? So what's left to be explained is why over there by Bechor? Don't we consider the newborn animals as belonging to the Makabel Yisrael, and they should be chayv from Bechor? Why are they part of? Why do they relate to the guy? The answer is like this: because he has access to those animals. Given the loyav zusi, they had a profit-sharing arrangement, right? But if the Yisrael, who's raising his animals, will not pay up on time, guess what? The guy will come and snatch the actual behema. If he doesn't find the behema around, guess what? He'll go straight to the offspring. So he's sort of a pseudo-owner. He has control of the whole stock. And therefore, it's considered that the guy's hand is right here, meaning he casts his shadow over all these animals. And that's considered sufficient to exempt him from Bechora, because he has some sort of financial claim, financial stake in this whole herd. Okay, so bottom line, we had a kasha. Tzayin Barzel is an issue of ribis, because I'm fully accepting responsibility, and then when I give you some profits, it's like I'm paying for the ribis. Whereas in Mesechus Bechoros, we learned that if a yid is makabel Tzayin Barzel from a guy, it's part from Bechora. Apparently, it still relates to the owner. Well, Abaye said it depends how strong he's committed. Rava says Bechora is totally different, because there the owner is still yad nachir be'emtza, is still connected to these things. Even though technically the Yisrael is fully responsible, if he's not going to pay up on time, the guy will come, seize these animals, and that's sufficient connection to consider it somewhat related to the guy and potter from Bechora. We have a pasuk in Mishlei. Mar behoinei b'neshach v'tar, is a person that increases his wealth by accepting ribis payments. L'choinein dalim yikabitzenu. He's really amassing it for the choinein dalim, for a king who is to disperse money to poor people. Basically, Hashem will take it away from him. He's not going to hold on to this money. It's going to be dispersed and distributed to others. Who's this choinein dalim? The one who grants to the poor. Omar Rav Kigoyin, for instance, Shvar Malka. That was the name of a Persian king who seemed to have been some sort of, had some sort of element of benevolence, and he would take the mammon of Yisrael and distribute it to the Geisha poor. Amar Ibn Achman, Amar li Huna. Rav Huna told me, the point of this pasuk is to warn even against accepting ribis from a guy, not doing interest business with a guy. That's the point of the pasuk. From a yid, of course, it's asa. Even from a guy, which is a big chiddush. Right? The Gemara later, the point here is that you might learn from the guy's ways. I believe the Rishonim explains that right, we want to try to keep away from them totally, and it says Gzera shel yilmad memaisa, right? Oh, which is based on the Gemara later, right? Because we're concerned about too much interaction with the guy and generating camaraderie. So we want to keep away from the goyim, and therefore we have to minimize our interaction, and we shouldn't be involved in ribis transactions with the goyim because it's very enticing and drawing. So therefore the Chacham don't allow. So that's the point of the pasuk. Beware, even from a goy. But by the way, the Gemara later will tell us that if that's his business, that's kedei chayav, then it was allowed. But with a note of caution. So comes Rava and asks the kasha to Rav Nachman. How could you say you can't accept ribbis from a goy? Lo nachri tashich. It's a pasuk. Lo nachri sashich. Right? Now, what does sashich mean? My sashich lav so sheikh. That you could receive money from a ribbis money from a goy. Right? So it works both ways. You can give him ribbis and take money from him. Ribbis is what? So the Gemara says no, lo. Sashich. You can only give him ribbis, but not accept ribbis from the goy. I mean, is the Torah, instructing us to pay ribbis to a goy? I mean, the fact that it's allowed, that's obvious, because why not? He's not a yid. This ribbis only applies to a yid. So is the Torah instructing us, being mitzavah to give to a goy? It's not enough without it, meaning why would a person be required to give him ribbis? Perhaps the pasuk is saying, look, you can give the guy ribbis, but don't give ribbis to a yid. That's us. Well, that we know already. Your brother, a yid, to give him ribbis, it's a pasuk. Not allowed to do that. The answer is lavar olav ba'asei v'leisasei. Lochich leisashich is a leisay. Don't do it. And here comes another pasuk. It's allowed to the goy, but not allowed to the yid. That's like an asay because it's derived from a. Even though it's a leisay, say don't give it to the yid, but it's derived from a. It's a derivation. That's called it's like an asay. Right? A lot that's coming from an asay is an asay. So give to the guy, but we learn from there. Don't give to the yid. That's a law. It's derived from a negative, from a positive. It has the din of a positive. So a person gives ribbis to a yid. He violates two things, an asay and a leis asay. Eisve, here comes another kasha. How could you say that one is not allowed to be accepting ribbis from a goy? Lo even mehen, our Mishnah. You can borrow from them with ribbis, or malvan oisem and lend them ribbis. So it's fully allowed. A person needs it for his parnasa, for his basic livelihood, that's okay. Right? And actually, Tosfos brings, the Rashba brings the name of Rashi, Bizman Azeh. We're noyik to be matter in all cases because we have so many taxes and fees and whatever we can get our hands on, that's called Kedei Chayav, that's our basic sustenance. Ravina Amar, Hacha b'talmidei chamaskinan. When the Mishnah allows it, typically you shouldn't be taking money from a guy, but if when the Mishnah allows it, because it's a Talmud Chacham. Because there we suspend there's no concern, it circumvents any chashash of over-interaction with a guy. Time am high. Goes to Rabbana, why did Rabbana not allow us to take from a guy? Shema Yilma Memaisa, we might get too close with him and learn from his errant ways and his lifestyle. Keep Talmud Chacham, since it's a Talmud Chacham, he's safe and secure. There's no concern that he'll overly interact with a guy and learn from his errant ways, and therefore our Mishnah allows making ribbis arrangements with a guy. Okay, let's summarize today's DAF. Discussed Imoy Shal Yisayim, had invested safely and successfully. There are certain leeways. Ribbis D'Rabbanan, certain instances are suspended when it's Imoy Shal Yisayim. We discussed the concept of Kabbalah Tzoin Barzel from a Yid, from a Goy, how it relates to Ribbis, how it relates to Bechor, and Ribbis interactions with a Goy, which is technically Mutter Min HaTorah, Asur Min D'Rabbanan. Well, we have two exceptions. One is Kedei Chayav, and one is a Talmud Chacham, who is protected from this type of concern. All the best to you, and Atzlach Rab.